Hello, friends, and welcome back to Barely Qualified Picks for our Week 6 NFL picks. A little late this week, but better late than never. Friends, we are 2-7 through the last 3 weeks. That is a big oof. We were looking like we were going to be 2-1 last week in the black for the first time on NFL before the Chiefs botched the kickoff after their go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter, which gave Jacksonville the ball on their own 40-yard line, which they efficiently converted into a game-winning score. Alas, another week in the red at 1-2 as the Vikings and Browns somehow found more than enough offense to go over the total in London. At least that Philly Broncos game exhibited some semblance of normalcy in game flow as it went under the total as we predicted. Look, the NFL has always been hard to handicap. They say that this is a game that is won in the trenches and by inches, and that is often a literal truth. It's also true that the football itself is oblong in nature, and it is destined to bounce in all kinds of weird ways throughout a game or a season. So look, unexpected things are going to happen. You know, gambling is gambling for a reason, and the NFL has always been among the hardest sports to predict. But man, this season is really weird, weirder than most that I can remember. And it's appropriate that we're coming up on Halloween because trying to forecast these crazy NFL outcomes has me spooked lately. We saw Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo, and the Giants just last night smash the defending Super Bowl champions. I didn't see that coming, did you? Nor did I see a 49er team decimated by injury going into SoFi last week and taking down a very talented Rams team. Or Daniel Jones becoming the minus 10,000 favorite for comeback player of the year, dishing out 3 double-digit beatdowns to the Dolphins, the Titans, and putting 40 on the Raiders last week, while also nabbing a win against the surging Broncos. And we talked about that bad beat of the year with Philly improbably not just beating, but covering against the Rams on that crazy blocked kick to end the game. But maybe that's not the bad beat of the year. Maybe it's the Arizona Cardinals who found a way to lose at home last week, 22-21 to Tennessee, as a 7.5 point favorite, in which they were leading 21-3 in the third quarter. We had the classic drop the ball before the goal line monster rear its head again in a bad beat that burnt up countless betting tickets and ended countless more eliminator runs this season. And then there was the 40-40 tie between the Packers and Cowboys, a 30-0 loss by Atlanta at what we all thought was the worst team in the league at the time, Carolina, a 13-10 win by the Browns over the Packers, where the Browns didn't score a single point until there was just 3 minutes and 38 seconds left in the fourth quarter. We had septuagenarian Carson Wentz, magical 48-point outing against Cincinnati. And honestly, there are even more unexpected occurrences that we could dig into if we wanted to keep going. The point is, the NFL has always been hard to predict. And this year, it seems like we've moved from really, really hard to damn near impossible to leverage data and analytical insights and win on a consistent basis. So, if you want something different, you got to do something different. In the face of better evidence, be prepared to pivot. These are cliches, but they are very true. We're going to hold them to heart. And in recognition of the NFL's complete and total unpredictability this year, and the fact that I, Dennis, do not have any data that's going to give my picks a real edge, see my 2-7 record over the last 3 weeks, like I believe that I do with the college picks. And I will say that, like I do think with college, there are some metrics that matter. And you see that I think help us forecast outcomes there. I don't have that with the NFL. And I think as a result, we should do a hard pivot and flip from a top 3, which might make you think that I've unearthed critical advantages, to a new model. Introducing Uncle Denny's Any Given Sunday Hunches. Because what are these really more than hunches on the NFL level? We've seen so much unpredictability. Truly, the any given Sunday philosophy is alive and well in the NFL this year. And let's lean into that. We're going to pick 3 games that we have a hunch on, that they're going to go a certain way, and we're going to tell you why. Win or lose, follow or fade, we're going to give you these hunches weekly. And don't worry, Gerald is also still back for our head-to-head competition. And this week, I'll be sure to tell you all of his picks, not just the first several, and forget about the rest, which were in the Substack, but were not in the video. Oops, my bad. Progress, not perfection. All right, so our first Uncle Denny's Any Given Sunday hunch. Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Bucks, as 2.5-point favorites at home, are going to find a way to win this week's game against San Francisco because that's what Baker does. We have two 4-1 teams battling for pole position in the NFC along with Detroit, now that Philly fell out last night. This is a separation game in a crowded NFC race. There's no doubt. It's got all the stakes, it's got all the hype, but only one of these teams has to fly across the country for an early kickoff. And one of these teams is more banged up than the other. Unfortunately, also San Francisco. Edge, Tampa. Baker Mayfield is playing lights out, MVP level football. And there is no more important position to get that from than your quarterback. Duh. He is 4th in the NFL in passing yards and tied for 3rd in passing touchdowns. He is 8th in QBR. Those are stellar numbers reflective of the eyeball test and the year that he's putting on tape. He is playing great football, and he's finding a way to not just stay in, but win these games. His 10-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio is amazing, but let's be honest, that is likely to regress at least a little bit as we progress through the year, given his willingness and ability to sling it, to take some risks, and to throw the ball into tight windows. But with the time that he's getting from the line and the immense talent in his receiving core, why shouldn't he be? Now, Mac Jones has been on fire, but in this QB battle, I'm backing Baker. Third thing for me is Emeka Egbuka, Tacoma, Washington, stand up. Emeka Egbuka is a top-flight receiver already in the league, and he is looking like the very likely successor to the number 1 spot Mike Evans has held down for so many years in Tampa. And he's going to have to hold that down this week because Evans is doubtful to play. Does not look like he will be back. He did not practice this week. So it's going to be Egbuka as the number 1 receiver again. He's averaging 17.8 yards per catch. He's capable of running every route on the field at an elite level. He's increased his usage and his output in each of the last 3 games. I'm not saying that I expect him to get more than the 163 yards he got last week, this coming Sunday, but Egbuka is going to put a strain on a middling Niners pass defense that gave up 15 combined receptions and 173 receiving yards to Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams last week. And now they've got to contend not just with Egbuka, but also Oregon Duck Tez Johnson and possibly Chris Godwin in what might be the most talented receiving room in the entire league when it's fully healthy. Meanwhile, Mac Jones has been incredible these last couple of games, and it's been even more impressive that he's done what he's done with replacement level players at wide receiver. And he's going to get plenty of help from Christian McCaffrey this week. But the Niners wide receiver injury issues persist. And even if Ricky Pearsall can play this week, I think we're going to see an end to Mac's run of, essentially 300 yards passing per week. And with that, give me edge Bucks. And I think overall edge Bucks -2.5. Give me the Bucks at home to find a way to get one against the 49ers, who have themselves found a way to pull it out multiple times this year when we didn't think they would. This is going to be an exciting game. Potentially the game of the week, maybe not the game of the week, but this is going to be one that we're going to be watching closely, and we've got the Bucks in our first Any Given Sunday hunch of the week. All right, in our second Any Given Sunday hunch of the week, appropriately, we've got a grandfather. And first, I want to say, I'm not sure in Cincinnati, Green Bay, where Green Bay is favored by 14.5 points, that the Packers should be favored by 14 or more points over any team in the NFL at the moment. They've got no Christian Watson. They've got no Jaden Reed. They're missing multiple offensive linemen from practice this week. Who knows what that means for Sunday? You have to score points to cover 2 touchdowns, and I'm not sure Green Bay is exactly humming as an offense right now. Covering 14 points also generally means that you've got to put on a strong defensive performance, which Green Bay may or may not deliver. I love Micah Parsons, but there is a reason why double-digit dogs have covered over 57% of the time since 2003. And given the spread is 14.5, realistically, 3 scores. You got to get that extra field goal. The natural edge leans in favor of the Bengals, particularly since Jake Browning is benched. And, second point, Grandpa Joe has come to the rescue. Like a sweaty silver fox on a YMCA racquetball court, Joe Flacco doesn't require tremendous athleticism to win these days. He never really did, to be honest. He's not going to use his legs like the youngins do. He's going to use his brain. He's going to make good decisions and make the Packers pay for their mistakes, just like at the YMCA. He's not going to run all over the court. He's going to be in the right place at the right time to get the W. Now, I don't know that Joe Flacco is going to get the W against the Packers. Yes, he's very old. Yes, he's only been in Cincinnati long enough to finish his first cup of coffee. But he's been in the league forever. He's run different types of offenses with myriad players and supporting casts, and he has seen every defense NFL teams have run over the course of his career. If this was Jake Browning leading the offense this week, 14.5-point dogs at Green Bay. My hunch would be he's going to throw multiple picks and the game is going to be a total stay away. But I very much do not expect Grandpa Joe to throw a bunch of picks. Quite the opposite. I expect that he will protect the ball, he'll make good decisions, and he will let the Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown trio do the heavy lifting. Edge, Bengals. Cincinnati is also still loaded at skill positions. Jake Browning has really struggled to protect the ball, but the Bengals still have perhaps their own best receiving core in the league in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Jamar Chase himself might be the best receiver in the league. Last week I said that I think that was Justin Jefferson. You can make arguments either way. I'll still take Justin Jefferson this week, but I'm not going to complain if Jamar Chase is your guy. They also have potentially the best number 2 receiver in the league in T. Higgins. And Chase Brown is a Swiss Army knife at running back. He can run between the tackles. He can run outside of the tackles. He can block in the passing game. He can catch the ball in the passing game. Chase Brown is a very good running back. The offensive line isn't great. We know that. But with a competent QB who isn't turning it over every other possession, this offense should have life. And if it does, it should score a couple of times. And if it does, that means Green Bay has to score a bunch of times. And I have a hunch that it doesn't have the firepower to do that at the moment. Edge, Bengals. Give me the Bengals plus 14.5 at Green Bay. And in our third hunch of the week, I'm going back to the well. Last week's Philly-Denver under pick was as much about Denver as it was about Philly. And boy, did the Broncos deliver. Denver's defense has been legit all season. And last week's win over Philly reinforced that fact, led by 3 sacks from Nick Bonito. Now Denver takes their smothering defense to New Jersey to take on a winless Jets team. Talk about 2 teams going in very different directions. The Broncos' arrow is very much pointed up, and the Jets have seemingly gotten less and less competitive each week. Now, you might say, Dennis, isn't this the wild, weird NFL this year? Isn't everything up that's supposed to be down and vice versa? Yes. So you might look at this and think, okay, the Jets might, figure out a way to win this game. That's fine, because we're not betting on the Jets in the game. We're betting on the under. We're betting on defenses. And what I think would be the wackiest thing of all is if both the Broncos and the Jets offenses exploded and beat the total. So keeping that in mind, sure, the Jets might win this game. It might be wacky. We might look back at the end of the season and say, do you remember how the 1-16 Jets beat the AFC West champion Broncos? Isn't that crazy? But as long as the game is under the total, that's all that matters. And that total is 43.5 points. Okay, so for the Broncos, that means doing what they want to do every week. Establishing the runs with J.K. Dobbins, who is still healthy, knock on wood, knock on every piece of wood that you can see around you, because J.K. Dobbins, man, man is made of glass. But right now, the glass holds together, and he is running the ball really well, averaging a little bit more than 4 yards per carry. And he is accompanied by a very great change of pace back in R.J. Harvey, who seemingly can break one at any given time. And the Broncos not only are they moving the chains with the running game, they are also utilizing that Sean Payton short passing game between Bo Nix and Troy Franklin, who he's been throwing the ball to since forever, to keep the chains moving as well. And then add into that the few big pass plays that we're seeing per game that are stretching the field and keeping defense honest. Courtland Sutton is in probably the best state that he's been in, where he's able to run these routes. He's able to stretch the defense, take the top off, but he doesn't have to do everything. This Denver offense is doing exactly what it wants to do. They are limiting possessions, they're controlling the clock, and they're playing great complementary football to this Denver defense. Now, the Jets, conversely, have lost the turnover battle in all 5 games they played this season. That is not a good sign. It is going to be hard to beat Denver if Denver imposes their will to any degree and the Jets lose the turnover battle. Not only have they lost it, in most of their games they haven't gotten any turnovers, they've just turned the ball over. Bad. They also gave up 180 yards rushing to the Cowboys, 123 yards on 4 yards per carry to the lowly Dolphins, and 122 yards to the Bucs over the last 3 weeks alone. The Jets are not all of a sudden going to stiffen up against a rushing attack that is working as well as the Broncos is. This all bodes well for the under. Conversely, while the Jets have scored 21 to 27 points over the past 3 weeks, and that paired with the Broncos just scoring their average would put us right above that underline, while that, you might say, leads to one thinking that the game will go over the total, let's remember that this is a Jets team that has lost running back Braylon Allen for the season. They are going to be down to just Breece Hall, and while Breece Hall is a very talented running back, there's going to be a heavy focus on him and not a lot of relief. That running back by committee approach works really well because it keeps both guys healthier, keeps both guys fresher, and it really puts more stress on the defense than just Breece Hall is going to be able to do on his own. And then when you look at how the passing attack can help, yes, Justin Fields has made it a clear focus to feed Garrett Wilson this year. But Patrick Surtain is the best corner in the league. And he is going to be very focused on shutting down Garrett Wilson, which I think is going to lead to the worst passing performance of the year for Justin Fields. And ultimately, I see this as a situation where the Jets are held to 17 or fewer points, maybe 13 or fewer points. The Broncos have given up an average of just under 11 points per game in their wins. So if you think about just the midpoint between where the Jets have been and where the Broncos have been over the last 3 weeks, we're talking right about 17 points. And look, if Bonito, Surtain, and the Broncos defense are able to play their brand of football, there just aren't many points to be had. Even against a kitchen sink type game from the Jets, there won't be very many points to find on Sunday, and that's going to lead to, at best, 23-17, 23-13, you're getting up to 40 points, but that's still below that 43.5 total. So my hunch says this game could go a bunch of different ways, but the vast majority of the ways that it could go lead to an under of 43.5. All right, last segment for the day, Dennis versus Gerald. Last week, Gerald won the week going 7-3. That's impressive. Gerald's making money last week, 7-3. I won a measly 4-6. Did not make money last week. And why not in such an upside down season? I sense the wind's changing this week though. Gerald, week 6 is mine. Here we go, brother. All right. We're going to start with Broncos minus 6.5 at Jets. We told you we think that it's going to be the under, but we did not pick a side. Not to beat a dead horse, but the Broncos are definitely the better team. They're headed in the right direction. They'll impose their will, and the Jets will sputter. I'm taking the Broncos minus 6.5. Just for everybody's reminder, heads is home. In this case, the Jets. Tails is Broncos. Got our coin. Survey says tails. Gerald and I are already going another direction. He's taking the Jets. All right, in our second game, we've got the Cardinals plus 7.5 at the Colts. It's hard to pick against a Colts team that's on a roll like they are, and it's even harder to pick a Cardinals team that did what it did last week. But that's exactly what the NFL wants us to think this year. I don't know why, but this feels like a zag for me. I'm taking the Cardinals plus 7.5. I still think the Colts win at home, but I think the Cardinals keep it a little closer. And Gerald takes home. Gerald is taking the Colts. We're going a different way again. Gerald takes the Colts. All right, in our third game, we've got the Chargers minus 3.5 against the Dolphins. I keep getting these Chargers games wrong this year, but I still believe in the Chargers. The Dolphins aren't good. Being at home helps, and I wish it was 2.5 and not 3.5, but I can't back the Dolphins right now. Give me the Chargers minus 3.5. Gerald will take tails. Gerald will also take the Chargers. All right, Patriots minus 3.5 at the Saints. Which of these surprise Week 5 winners are going to keep the momentum going? The Pats have a lot to like, including Drake May at quarterback. The Saints have some high-quality vets like Kamara and Olave, but Spencer Rattler isn't at Drake May's level, and we have no idea what Saints team we're going to get from week to week. I think the predictability is a bit higher with the Vrabel coach teams right now, and I like the direction of travel for the Pats. So give me the Patriots minus 3.5. Gerald? Gonna have to flip that again. Gerald will take the home team. He takes the Saints. All right. In our next game, we've got the Browns plus 6.5 at the Steelers. The Browns defense is really good. We covered that last week. And the Browns nearly won that game last week in Dylan Gabriel's first NFL start. But the Steelers have found a way to 3-1 and are coming off an early bye. Kenneth Gainwell has felt like the most complete running back the Steelers have put on the field in years. And Gabriel's second start is, statistically speaking, not likely to be a great one as a rookie. It do be like that with rookie QBs. Give me the Steelers minus 6.5. It's a lot of points, but I think the Steelers cover. And Gerald agrees. We're going Steelers as well. And we move on to our next game. Cowboys minus 3.5 at the Carolina Panthers. Now, I have no idea what to expect from the Panthers week to week. They've been a Jekyll and Hyde team, there's no doubt. And I was very wrong on Rico Dowdle last week. He gets his revenge game this week against Dallas. I don't love picking the Panthers, but they are a lot better at home. And Rico Dowdle is pissed off and ready to cash in those revenge chips. Dak also has been really good lately. And what we see through the NFL season with almost every player is that they can have a lot of ups, but they're always going to have a few downs. Give me Dak being due for an off game, and I'll take Carolina plus 3.5. Gerald, who do you got? He's going to take the Panthers as well. Heads, Gerald takes the Panthers. All right, in our next game, we have the Seattle Seahawks, my beloved Seahawks. This game has been going back and forth. It is never good. I was talking with a great friend this week, Jenna White, who also is a very successful and accomplished bettor in her own right. She's written her own book. We talked about when a team flips from 1.5 point favorites to 1.5 point dogs back and forth. We're seeing this with the Oklahoma Sooners and the Texas Longhorns this week. We're also seeing this with the Seahawks and the Jaguars. Never a good sign. Vegas doesn't know. Who knows? These games used to just be pick 'em. You read in the newspaper when newspapers existed. Pick 'em. Not anymore. Vegas has got to have a lean one way or the other, and then they're going to flip back and forth between 1.5 for one team to the other team when they aren't sure. And right now, this is two games where the Jags won a game that they probably shouldn't have won last week, and the Hawks lost a game they probably shouldn't have lost last week. I still believe in the Seahawks' talent and their scheme this year. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to continue to put up big numbers and give Sam Darnold a great outlet. I think Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet are still going to be a very potent running duo this week. And the Seahawks do boast the third-ranked rushing defense to go against the Jaguars' fifth-ranked rushing offense. And Etienne, who is, as you guys know, one of my fantasy running backs. So, I would love to see Etienne get his, but I am more focused on seeing the Seahawks get a win. And I think they will do that in Jacksonville. Seahawks minus 1.5. Gerald, what say ye? Gerald takes the Jaguars. So we're going different directions here. Gerald's back in Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. I'm not sure that's a great decision, but he is 7-3 on the season. So who am I to judge? In our next game, we've got the Rams minus 7.5 going across the country to play the Baltimore Ravens. This feels like a kitchen sink game for the Ravens. Falling to 1-5 is essentially a death knell for the season. That said, this defense is so beat up that it's hard to map out a path to victory against a Rams team that has played well enough to be 5-1, if not 6-0. My tune will change if Lamar is suddenly back and available on Sunday. I don't love laying the extra half point above 7, but I can't back a Lamarless Ravens team and the shell of the normal defense that the Ravens are going to be putting on the field on Sunday. I just can't do it. So give me the Rams minus 7.5. And I think the Ravens, despite falling to 1-5, I know this sounds crazy, and I know I just said that it's a death knell. Maybe it's not. It makes me think back to the mid-90s when the San Diego Chargers started 1-4, 1-5. I should have done this research. It was really bad. They made it all the way to the Super Bowl, where they got their butts kicked by the 49ers and Steve Young. Yes. But that was a huge turnaround. It's been done before. I don't think the Ravens are totally out of it at 1-5, but they're almost out of it. They are in the ground and we're pouring dirt on them, and it's just a question to see whether Lamar can get up and get them out of the ground and back moving in the right direction. I don't think it's going to be this week. Rams minus 7.5. All right. Now we've got a battle of cellar dwellers in a pillow fight. The Titans minus 3.5 at the Las Vegas Raiders. I know the Titans shocked the Cardinals last week, and I know the Raiders have stunk it up the last couple of weeks, especially Geno. But in this battle, give me Jonty and the home team. Just don't give me any more turnovers from Geno, for the love of God. I'll take the Raiders. This one could go any different way, but I will take the Raiders plus 3.5. I love getting just a bit more than a field goal. And Gerald is going to, he is also going to take, no, Gerald takes the Titans. I'm sorry, we're away on this one. We're tails. Gerald takes the Titans minus 3.5. All right. We have 3 more games to go. In our third to last game, we've got the Detroit Lions plus 2.5 at the Kansas City Chiefs. This might be the game of the week. I love the Lions, and they have been very impressive with the continuity after Ben Johnson left for Chicago this offseason. The 4-1 Lions' smallest margin of victory is 8 in a 38-30 win at Baltimore. Detroit's average margin of victory is 19 and a sterling 15 if you exclude the 52-21 win they had over Ben Johnson's Bears. Look, Arrowhead's a tough environment, and I never like going against Patrick Mahomes, but give me the Lions plus 2.5. What do you think, Gerald? Gerald is also taking the Lions on the road plus 2.5. All right, 2 games to go. We've got Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills minus 4.5 at the Atlanta Falcons. And even though the Bills did us no favors when we picked them over the Saints, I can't back the Falcons after that 30-0 drubbing at Carolina. Can't do it! Josh Allen, we forgive you for the Saints game. Now go cover in Atlanta. We take the Bills minus 4.5. Gerald? Tails. Also on the Bills bandwagon, we are Bills Mafia minus 4.5 at Atlanta. Let's get that payback. All right, final game of the week, second Monday night game. I don't know why we need multiple Monday night games this far into the season. I really, truly don't. But okay, we've got 2. Bears plus 4.5 at the Commanders. I could see this game going either way. And my gut says it's a field goal difference no matter what the final score is and who wins. The Bears might not win, but it seems like things are clicking offensively, so I expect Chicago to at least keep pace with the Jaden Daniels Washington Commanders offense. Give me the Bears plus 4.5. Gerald, who you got? Gerald is taking the home team, the Commanders, so we've got plenty of spots where we are going in different directions, and that, my friends, is all we've got for NFL this week. As always, may the betting gods be on your side. They sure as hell haven't been on mine for the NFL this year. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll be back with you next week.